If you played Marathon for any amount of time, you know that moment. I'm talking about that moment when your eye catches a little glimmer in the dense weeds of the dire marsh. And you've been assassinated. This is Riley from Perfect Game Whatever. In this video, I'm going to teach you how to be the assassin. First, I'm going to start by breaking down the ability set of the assassin shell, and that starts out with the prime ability, which is Smokescreen. This ability is super powerful, and essentially what it is that you throw a little smoke disc that then emits a line of smoke fields in the direction that you aim. So it's essentially just an instantaneous directed line of smoke grenades. And also the assassin shell has the Shroud trait, which makes you go invisible while in smoke, which combines perfectly with this ability, but we'll go into the Shroud trait a little bit later. So the smoke screen opens up two god tier options in critical fights, and the first is to discombobulate.
First, discombobulate.
Use it for discombobulation when you are confident in your crew's kits and ability to take the enemies and want the upper hand. It's confusing as hell when you pop a smoke screen in the middle of a tight battle with a bunch of runners. Allows you some time to reposition, get the high ground, back off the heel, anything you need to do in that little bit of time. You can also execute some pretty risky ass revives while smoked off, and it pairs really well with the Triage Shell's Reboot Plus ability. They can just point at the little icon in the middle of the smoke, hit the instant revive, and they're up and perfectly covered. You can also easily use it as a distraction, because enemies will think by default that the assassin is hiding out in the smoke to recuperate, but actually you could just throw the smoke in the opposite direction of your line of attack while invisible, wrap around to flank from a different position entirely. It completely throws enemies off guard most of the time. The other option that this ability gives you is the ability to get the fuck out. So when your entire team is shredded, your health is critical, you can use this as a last resort eject button. Your shields are cooked and you're pinned down, pop the smoke screen. And the added invisibility and smoke from the Shroud trait makes you very, very difficult to track in the smoke. And your general strategy for getting the fuck out should kind of be this. In a close quarters fight, you want to slap it on the ground right in front of you. You'll instantly turn invisible. It'll confuse everybody in that cloud of smoke, offer you a little bit of time to kind of find a little nook and cranny to heal or just run away in a direction they won't expect. In a medium to long distance fight, you definitely want to throw it in a line perpendicular to your enemies. So basically that means you want to throw it kind of to the side instead of towards the enemies. That'll just erect... That'll just create a big ass wall for your enemies to just blindly shoot at. It essentially acts as complete hard cover. Like enemies aren't just going to wildly fire through this long wall of smoke. It allows you to just be able to cut off the line of sight. You can peel out of the smoke in the opposite direction or just reposition to put a better defense up. The smoke screen is pretty critical to the Assassin Shell's kit, but the next ability, Active Camo, it's kind of the bread and butter of the Assassin Shell. This shit makes you unseeable. It allows you to execute brain dead ballsy strategies. Well, they would be brain dead. That is until the crisis twoification of your shell. If you're late in a run, all the bots are purple shielded captains and commanders. There's no shame in using the active camo to escape bots. They pretty much instantly unaggro even when you're right next to them, as long as you're not, running, jumping, or shooting. But do note, this shit actually makes you mostly unseeable. Your degree of invisibility is completely tied to the amount you're moving, so if you're standing still, you're pretty much entirely invisible. And then crouch walking, you're a little bit more visible, but like a little hard to discern. When you're walking, you're mostly invisible, but still definitely detectable if someone's looking in your direction. Sprinting, jumping, shooting, very visible. Essentially no effects from the ability or very minor effects. Also, if an enemy knows generally where to look for you and you're invisible, it's kind of obvious to see you if you're moving to any degree. Like even if you're crouch walking, it can be pretty easy to see in many environments, so don't get caught crouch walking out in the open. Move steadily and decisively without sprinting. If you're still unspotted, you can get away with a lot of movement. And the ability definitely does rely on the enemy not having the slightest clue you might be in a specific spot. So it's fantastic for approaching a location of runners preoccupied with bots or other players, just having no awareness of your presence at all. So you can rip the camo, quickly get yourself into an overpowered flanking or high ground position. It's just really good for setting up an ambush. Also know you're still audible via your footsteps, so they're completely unaffected by this ability. You will definitely make sound. I hear invisible level assassins all the time, it will totally give away your position. Next, I'm going to go into the first trait of the assassin class, which is the Shroud trait. So this gives you invisibility when you enter any cloud of smoke, and that effect lingers for a bit even after you leave it. So this trait synergizes so well with the rest of the assassin kit. It allows you to flow through your smoke screen, pop out any end invisible, gives you like just a little bit of extra invisibility, especially if your active camo's on cooldown. It also just offers you so much more security when hanging out in a smoke cloud during a fight. So you can heal, reload, pop a consumable, even like revive a teammate if you're feeling ballsy. But enemies can and will throw a grenade in the smoke plume, so don't assume you're safe in there, but know that you just have a little bit more safety. You're not going to get shot most likely. Also, this extra invisibility in smoke, it works for any type of smoke, including smoke grenades. So if your teammates ever listen to you, tell them to bring some smoke grenades. Now we'll go into the next trait, which is actually another ability called Shadow Dive. So this creates a big plume of smoke when you activate it while falling from a heightened position. And this is just a solid additional smoke option in a pinch, like when your smoke screen is unavailable, recharging. It can be pretty good in specific niche situations like a contentious exfil, or when you're trying to get away from a group of enemies and you're jumping from a height. And you do get those invisibility effects from the Shroud trait as well, so keep that in mind. But it's just a decent extra tool in your arsenal. You probably won't be using it constantly, but also note, it completely prevents fall damage. So honestly, in my games, a lot of the time, this is what I'm using it for. It's pretty situational. I don't think it's that great overall. It's kind of unusable in most indoor environments, and logistically kind of makes little sense in a gunfight to go seek out a box or a building to climb just to use the ability. Because yeah, you can only use it when you're falling from a specific height. Like you can't just jump off the ground and use it. You need to start at least on a box or something. And it could be a little finicky. Even on small boxes, it won't work. So it is pretty situational overall. If you like all these shell guides, please like and subscribe. I really appreciate it. Tell me in the comments what you want next. All right, so now I'm going to go over the general approach for a run and then start out with the stats again. So as you can see here, the assassin shell kind of has mid stats. It's sort of a jack of all trades, master of none. It just has like okay stats for every single category, except it's worth noting the agility is moderately high, like the second highest of any of the shells. That allows a little bit of positioning flexibility when you're using your active camo from an obscure high position. It can be pretty useful. But now I'm going to go to some specific tips or play styles that I recommend for the assassin shell. And the first is to position yourself in a way that maximizes the impact of your abilities. So first, play adjacent to your other two crewmates. Let them bear the initial distraction or attack as you camo your way to an advantageous angle. Let your vandal or your destroyer run ahead and initiate a fight. You should be trying to set yourself up as well as possible in the meantime. But do this quickly. You fucked up if your teammates are dead by the time you're in position. You did not do your job. Set up ambushes on runners. You see enemy runners looting or fighting in a location from afar. Use your invisibility, get close, mask your footsteps with their gunfire, utilize some nasty high ground positions. Teams almost always get caught up fighting bots or looting to expect an enemy squad to set up a multi-fanged ambush as they try to leave. And also close the distance when you're caught out in the open in an active gunfight. Your abilities are absolutely tailored to closing the distance between you and your enemies safely. Lay out a smoke screen in a direct line, bridging your team to the enemy team. Sprint through it, come out the other side activating your active camo. Use the combat shotgun, double tap all your enemies. And the next tip is that the assassin shell has some of the most direct and devastating counters of any shell. So you should be very aware at all times of what may counter you, because there are a lot of options for that. And one of the most powerful is the thief shell's X-ray visor. Pretty much directly counters the assassin's entire kit. They can see you through smoke as well as when you're active camoed. So you should be very aware if there are any thieves around. And also beware of any pinging ability like the Recon's Echo Pulse or the proximity sensor. You will get pinged regardless of invisibility or smoke. And then also thermal scopes can see you when you're cloaked or in smoke. Also, if an enemy knows your vague location, it's pretty easy to spot you even with full active camo unless you're completely still. So like a crouch walking assassin, still pretty visible if you know that there's a guy nearby or you hear their footsteps. So this just kind of underscores how critical it is for you to get into a good position just as a fight is starting or even before the fight. And the next tip is to use the invisibility with intention. I see so many assassin players just firing off the active camo willy-nilly while traveling in open areas between locations, looting a building, investigating an area, whatever. This is almost always a misplay. Even though the ability recharges pretty quickly, like a minute, a little bit more than a minute, it has a monumental incrementally bigger impact during and immediately before a fight. Don't use it when you're pretty certain there aren't enemies nearby or if you're traveling between locations, because when you need it, and it can save your ass. And the last thing I like to say, it's overrated in solos and it's underrated in trios. I'm sure a lot of you in the comments are probably going to disagree with me in this, but in solos, I see like half of the other runners playing assassin. And yes, it is good when getting in position to slide up on an unaware enemy. But the thing is, solos is so much quieter than trios. You have to be so much more careful with your footsteps. You have to crouch walk in so quietly. There's no teammates to play off of. To me, it's just an okay shell. Like, you can't even have your active camo on for most of the time. So you got to be really careful about timing it right. And also, there are just so many counters to the assassin shell. I would rather run like the Vandal or even the Thief. Take weird, obscure high positions instead. You don't have to worry about perfectly timing your active camo to enemies because they don't even look up at your weird ass hiding spot when you're a Vandal anyway. But it is underrated as hell in trios. Even though a decent amount of people play it, it's so good in combination with team abilities and roles. Assassin can set up a flank while the Destroyer draws enemy runners' attention. The Assassin can cover down crewmate with a smoke screen, and the Triage insta revives them with Reboot Plus. Teammates could coat an area in smoke grenades. The Assassin can slip in behind enemies unnoticed. Overall, just really good in a team setting where you're kind of communicating. But either way, yeah, let me know if you disagree with either of those, but I feel like it is really, really good in trios and kind of met in solos. Now I'm going to go into some good ass items and loadouts for the Assassin shell. And these are some things I like, not indicative of endgame builds or anything, just sort of vaguely good for the class in most situations. And for weapons, I really love the combat shotgun. Obviously, you all know how goated this gun is. Close the distance with the smoke screen, fire off your active camo, two-shot any enemy. What else do I need to say? Also, a good precision rifle like the Strider or the volley rifle are fantastic for when you set up a nice ambush with your active camo, or you get a little medium distance flank going where the time to kill is just super fast, especially when you can land a guaranteed first headshot. Precision rifles are great on the Assassin. And then as far as equipment and consumables, the smoke grenades are obviously goated. Your Shroud ability works with them, helps you close even more distance, have crewmates bring them. Also, the Signal Jammer consumable is fantastic for the Assassin shell and helps you deal with all those millions of counters. So it prevents you from getting pinged or even seen through a thermal scope, aka the two main ways that the Assassin class is directly countered. So it's just extra assurance if you want to be 100% prepared for the recon counter. And I believe it also counters the Thief's X-ray visor as well. I've never been able to see that in an actual game because Bungie won't add a training grounds. Now I'll just kind of go over a couple of the really good cores that I like. And honestly, for the Assassin shell, there are a lot of good cores. Like, over half of them are super useful, super impactful. But one green core that I really like is Breathing Space, which means your Shroud increases your weapon's reload speed while in any smoke field. So that just adds to the utility of a smoke field. You enter it, you can reload all your guns, get prepared for your fight, even in the middle of a fight. And then another amazing shell is obviously this minus sights shell. After aiming down sights for a short time, you become invisible at the cost of generating heat. I mean, that's pretty self-explanatory, just extremely overpowered. However, I've never actually seen this. But yeah, let me know what your favorite core is. There are a lot of really good ones. This is only just scratching the surface. But yeah, in conclusion, the Assassin shell is kind of hit or miss, I would say. I think if you're in a really good team coordinated situation, it could be extremely impactful. You gotta just be aware. There are so many counters for the Assassin shell. If the enemy is even slightly prepared for an Assassin, they got a Thief, they've got any sort of pinging ability, yeah, it kind of counters you directly, so that's not great. But overall, it's a super fun shell to use. So yeah, I'm planning on making the rest of the guides for each shell in the game. Let me know what you want to see next. Thanks for watching, pals.